Recording in progress.
Let them come up online. And, open and mute everybody.
While you're doing that, the time is 7 on the. Sure, I was gonna volunteer.
Will be my first time.
I recommend using. It's the most recent minutes, like. July 26th,
Okay.
just delete out what was that and leave the framework in
Okay.
and follow the same. Format where
Okay.
we write down. How everybody voted and stuff like that.
All right. Okay, Chuck, you ready?
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone. This is Chuck Taroney, Reading's Conservation Administrator. This meeting will be conducted in person and remote format, consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which further extends COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in public meetings until March 31st, 2025. Please note that all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This agenda includes those matters which can be reasonably anticipated to be discussed at this meeting. Please note this meeting is being recorded. All material for this meeting will be available at the following link for those who are on Zoom. I'll send that link now. Brian Bowe, the Conservation Chair, will facilitate this meeting. Please note that there will be public comment period for each hearing. Each vote taken during tonight's meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. We begin with a roll call attendance. Brian, can you please review tonight's agenda and take the attendance?
Yeah, we'll do attendance first. I'll ask for everybody to say they're present to be sure we can hear them and vice versa. This is the order that we will vote in. The first person is Walter.
Walter Talbot, member present.
Tony.
Tony Rodolakis, member present.
Gerard.
Chirag Staliker, member present.
Craig.
Greg Catapult, member present.
Martha.
Martha Moore, Vice Chair present.
Brian Bowe, Chair, present. Okay, now review of the agenda for tonight. First thing we have is a continuation of a hearing for Zero Cedar Swamp. The next hearing is opening an RDA hearing for 323 Main Street. The next is to open a public hearing for NOI for 555 West Street. Then we are opening a hearing for an RDA for 1312 Main Street. Then we have opening a public hearing for an NOI for 11 Pinevale. And then we'll have the usual old new business with a number of discussion items. Among those discussion items, we have 2 certificates of compliance to address. Having said that, that's a pretty full agenda, so be aware of me trying to move this along. And with that in mind, the first hearing is Zero Cedar Swamp. My understanding that has been, the applicant has asked for continuation. Is that to August 28th?
August 28th, yeah.
Okay.
So
So
move that we continue the hearing on Zero Cedar Swamp to August 28th.
This is Tony, I second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Chirag Staliker in favor.
Greg Catapult in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. So that's by roll call vote, 6-0.
5-0.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
5,
6.
6.
6-0, sorry.
I'll check my math.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll move on to 323 Main Street, and I'll start by reading the opening blurb. Open the public hearing on request for determination of applicability filed by Edward Kantorowski under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Chapter 40 and or Redden Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to install a catch basin and recharge system within an existing parking lot to mitigate ponding and implement stormwater treatment prior to being discharged into nearby wetlands. All work is within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. 01867, and on the Conservation Division page under Project by Year. Assessors Map 12, Lot 109, File 2024-5. And who is here to present?
Giovanni Federa is on the,
I'm here right on Zoom.
so Giovanni, introduce yourself for the record.
Absolutely. This is my name is Giovanni Federa. I'm a project engineer, owner of Federa Engineering out of Danvers, Mass. So this is Bagel World, 323 Main Street in Reading. There is a proposed stormwater system being proposed on the northern corner of the property of the existing parking lot. The existing property right now is mostly, impervious, and there are some bordering vegetated wetlands in the rear, which would be to the east. And I can share my screen if that's easier. This is a plan from 2005, so it's a little over. It's about 20 years old, and so there were wetlands that were flagged in the abutting property, and this was, like I said, 20 years ago. If you look at the town GIS, there aren't any wetlands that show up on the GIS, but this plan shows wetlands, and if you go back there, you can visibly see that there's wetlands back there, and so we use this as our wetland boundary and how we just scaled it on our plan. You can see, so the subject property is over here, this kind of triangle shape property, and right in the rear, you have a wetland over here with these flags, and there's a isolated wetland over here. But we use this to scale on our plan that we provided. And you can see the setbacks over here. You have a 35-foot no disturbance zone. Similarly over here, and then the 100-foot setback, which cuts through almost half of the property. But here we have in the northern corner of the parking lot a catch basin, and it directs to an infiltration system, and an overflow would be directed to the rear. And that's a surface just overflow orifice that in an extreme storm, any runoff would just go directed to the back. But the way that it's currently going on right now is that there's no stormwater infrastructure. So every time it rains, there's some ponding that goes back there. And you have sediment basically just free flowing to the wetlands back there, right? And there's no form of treatment, so you're having untreated stormwater just go to the rear. And by implementing this, you're going to have a catch basin with the sump that takes into account for 25% TSS removal, and then the Caltech system, which will be infiltrating system, which it accounts for 80% TSS removal. And this Caltech system is sized to capture 1% this area on site. The parking lot's going to stay the same size that it is today. And I'm aware that there was some work that was started recently, and I have some pictures. It raised a few concerns with commissioners, and I was unaware that the work started. But what was going on, and I got a hold of the contractor, so they started some granite curbing. So in place of what was there previously, the bituminous asphalt berm, they replaced it with granite curbing, just to pretty much capture any additional runoff that's going to offsite, right? So now it's all contained within the parking lot and would be treated. Here are a few pictures. This work was, these pictures were taken, I believe, today. I know some commissioners went out there and there was concerns that there wasn't any erosion control barrier in the rear that was protecting the wetlands. So this was installed. This is a picture that was taken today. A couple other pictures of the work that was going on. And this was just it was a miscommunication between myself and the site contractor. So they did not intend to do any harm by doing work without having the approvals with the conservation commission. So they did apologize, and I know that they weren't trying to cause any harm by doing this work. So just a few more pictures. So that's the granite curbing being installed. But it looks like they did a pretty good job for the work that was they were doing. More erosion control barrier, but the site currently is now contained with this erosion control barrier. So it kind of gives a little bit of reassurance, in the sense of untreated stormwater that's going to the wetlands. But so that's the overview of the project. I'm happy to open it up to the commission, answer any questions, and help clarify this. So thank you.
Okay, then before we have questions, do you want to cover our site visit there?
Sure, I'd be able to talk about what we saw on the site visit. Walter, who's on Zoom, and Brian and I were the ones who did the site visit and noticed that the curbing was being installed already. Some other things I noticed was there is fencing on the south side of the property that doesn't seem to be drawn in on the plan. In back of those last 4 parking spaces in the back corner. That looks relatively new. Was that part of this same curb project, or is that been there for a little while?
I'm not sure, but you're saying that does it look like new permanent fencing that was installed?
Not on that edge, but go a right angle and come south, come down.
Over here.
Yeah, but not that far down, just in
Okay.
the corner. Yeah, right in there. Along that property boundary, there seems to be fencing that I don't see drawn on your plan.
Okay.
Not something I'm really complaining about, but I just noticed it. And then when they were doing the work in that same back corner, they had pulled out some looked like concrete sonotubes, and they were lying on the ground there. Back in that last parking space. And they had a pile of broken pieces of asphalt further towards the 100-foot line, right about where your cursor is. Have those been cleaned up already?
Yes, so from my understanding, all stockpiling has been cleaned up and removed off-site.
Okay. And the granite curbing stockpile that was also in that back corner has all been installed by now?
That is correct.
Okay. Moving northward along the back of the property, there is a hole in the fence. About 3 more parking spaces. Yep, right about where your cursor is. And there are some wooden pallets leaning up against the back side of the fence there. So just in terms of thinking about litter in the 100-foot zone, it seems like somebody just hid these old wood pallets behind the fence. And you could see them through that missing fence panel. So I would love to see those cleaned up when this project is done.
Okay.
And then, moving around to the corner where the Caltech chambers are going to be. your photo of the, erosion control that was just put in looks like the erosion control meets the chain link fence at the corner where the new curbing is put in. But on your map, it goes up quite a bit further on the edge of the property boundary. So you see where I'm talking about? Yeah, if you,
Over here, yeah.
yeah, but keep going along there and down. Yeah, that piece of erosion control looks like it meets the back end of that chain link fence rather than going through the chain link fence and over to the property boundary. Because there's a chain link fence all further back from where the Cultec chambers are. It goes all the way back to the back corner apparently. And that's not drawn on your plan either. So I'm thinking that the erosion control they put down doesn't come up as far as it's shown on your plan.
Okay. I think they put the erosion control barrier just kind of as like a emergency response of the work that was being completed. So once construction of the Caltech system to be installed, I'm sure they're gonna just push the erosion control back a little bit more just to make sure that there's enough room to install this overflow orifice.
Okay, so that won't be the final position of the erosion control.
No,
I was trying to figure out how they're gonna make the erosion control continuous when there's a chain link fence going through the place that you've drawn it on the diagram.
I see, yeah, okay.
So I'm sure there's a way, but I'm not familiar with putting erosion control through a chain link fence, so I'd like to see that secure so that there's not a channel where the fence comes through.
Okay.
Okay. We also noticed that there was some litter, behind the fence. It's a tall fence, hard to see over unless you're me. But people have clearly been throwing their Bagel World litter over the fence into the woods. So I'd love to see some of that litter cleaned up as much as possible when you're doing this construction.
Okay.
And I also noticed that the north property boundary says landscaped area all the way along. But that landscaped area near the street has a couple of shrubs, but further back is pretty much bare ground and then a thing with dog waste bags in it, but really no plantings all along that landscaped area. So that seems to me to be an opportunity to improve that landscaped area back to what it's claiming to be rather than just hard packed dirt. I think that's all the comments I had from the site visit. Maybe Brian or Walter has anything else to contribute.
Covers it from my perspective. Walter, anything you want to add to that?
I think, he's muted.
Okay, while Walter figures it out, I realized I have two more notes. There is also bittersweet in the area around where the erosion control is being put in. And it looked from your picture that maybe you've actually cut some of that bittersweet in order to put in the erosion control. But I'd like to see as much of that bittersweet removed as possible from that, let's call it northeast corner of the property. And what else did I make a note of? Oh, where they were building the curb in that northeast corner, there was a pile of dirt. Have they cleaned up that pile of dirt?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm really done.
Walter, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, please. Giovanni, would you kindly show the slides again, go back about
Absolutely.
two or three? Showed the protection barrier. Go. one,
Is it this picture you're talking about?
there was another one that looked very similar.
Might have been this one.
It looks as if a lot of the debris was either removed or tramped down to put that in. Like, I just remember it being very thick through there.
Yeah, a lot of the vegetation is not there at this point that we saw when we were there. Some of that is the bittersweet, I was saying, I was glad to see they got rid of, but it looks like they tramped down some others. I agree, Walter.
And then the other question I have is, why did you folks choose a 1-inch rainfall for the design criteria when it seems like we're gonna get more and more?
So when it comes to water quality treatment, the standard is 1 inch in an area with higher infiltrating soils. Lower infiltrating soils require a 1/2 inch of stormwater runoff. So we're treating 1 inch of rainfall, and that meets the criteria for water quality treatment.
And then you mentioned that the overflow is treated. What treatment would the overflow be getting?
So the treatment train essentially is the catch basin first, the infiltration Caltech second, and as stormwater really starts to overflow, the overflow is the last piece of the treatment system, and that's when water just sheet flows out of the orifice and into the wetlands. So by the time it reaches that overflow orifice, it's already gone through the catch basin, the Caltech system, and out to the wetlands. So it's been fully treated at that point.
It's not a case of last in, first out then.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions from the commission? Do you have any questions besides your observations?
I'm just wondering what will prevent erosion at that overflow orifice? Is there any sort of gravel or stone pad that it's overflowing onto, or is it just gonna wash away the dirt around that orifice?
It'll just it's not expected to have a like a high velocity overflow. It'll be a low velocity overflow, because you will still have that volume of the Caltech system as well as the infiltration of the Caltech. So while the overflow orifice is being used and water is being discharged from that, at the same time, stormwater is also being infiltrated by the Caltech system. So you have that decrease in peak rate of runoff just because the infiltration is working at the same time that it's overflowing. So it's not anticipated to be a high velocity overflow. So it'll just be overflowing in the area right around it.
Have you got a picture of that in your diagrams?
There is so that's what this is right here.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it'll come up through the grate. onto the-
correct.
Does anybody with more engineering knowledge than me have thoughts about whether that's gonna be sufficient?
I think Tony has his hand up.
Tony?
Hi, yes, thank you. Have you dug any test pits to measure the infiltration rate in the area that you're proposing to put the basin?
Yeah, so we had a test pit done right here. It was Loamy Sands, which has it's a high infiltration soil, so it drains well. And we did measure the estimated seasonal high water table, so we did make sure that the Caltech system would be at least 2 feet above the seasonal high water table.
And
So-
how did you measure that?
By test pit.
Right, but what criteria did you use to establish the water level?
It was, we were looking at redox, and so once we saw that we hit redox, and that's kind of, it was a clear indication between the loamy sand and then the redox level. So that's what we used.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, I have a question. So Giovanni, in your presentation, you were saying that the town GIS doesn't show wetlands back there. But if you click on the Mass GIS layer, it does show wetlands all behind back there. Can you explain the difference?
I thought the town GIS just showed no wetlands back there, but we weren't, we were using the data that was supported in this plan right here. So the difference really, there really is no difference. I mean, the town GIS sometimes doesn't follow the state Mass DEP layers, so different layers. But I may have missed the Mass DEP wetland layers on the GIS.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if it's meaningful. So if I understand this, after more than 1 inch of rain in a given storm, the water will go through an outlet after having been treated to some extent by the surface of the Caltech chamber, and then it'll go to the wetland. Does that, and I know you talked about the, was it 85% reduction in pollutants and what have you, but how do you think that's going to handle effluents from cars and what have you, more oily and what have you? How do you think that's going to be handled?
It meets the Mass DEP standards of treatment, so it enters into a catch basin first. Within that catch basin has a deep sump with a hood. So this is what it would look like from a cross-sectional standpoint, the catch basin. So any oils that are built up from vehicles, it would be contained pretty much within this sump, and that's what the hood is for, just so that it kind of acts as like a barrier for the oils to be entering into the system. And let me clarify the volume of the Caltech system. So 1 inch of rainfall multiplied by the area, the tributary area, would be equal to 625 cubic feet of rainwater. So the storage from this Caltech system is over that. It's 657 cubic feet. So it's greater than 1 inch of rainfall that would be directed here. And assuming there's no infiltration during the time of when the first inch of rainfall is getting discharged here, essentially this Caltech system would fill up, but that's assuming no infiltration. Obviously infiltration will be working, but it has a storage volume of 1 inch, a little bit greater than 1 inch of rainfall.
So let me cut to the chase then. So your design covers the current standards. What would it take if you were to over-design the chamber to account for what is now inevitable increase in rain in the forthcoming months and years? I'm getting a place that talks about 40 to 50% increase. I'm not saying you got to cover all of that, but is there a way to increase the volume at least somewhat?
Well, you know what? The owner of this property is willingly installing this Caltech system because of the puddling, right? And that's just for their customers and making sure that the parking back there is not being interrupted whenever it rains. You know, so there is no added impervious area, so the peak rates of runoff between existing and proposed is going to remain the same. How actually it's going to now decrease because we've now implemented infiltration, right? You know, so the peak rate of runoff, now we didn't run that calculation because we felt it was just unnecessary. We're really just proving that we're meeting the water quality treatment. And but now that there's added infiltration, the peak rates of runoff will be decreased by installing the system. So if you look at what is there, you know, existing and what will be there afterwards, it's a totally improved design and parking lot. It's, you know, from, you know, every aspect. There won't be any puddling anymore, and as well as the stormwater, it's going to be treated instead of having just unfiltered water directed to the wetlands. So it's overall an improved system, and you know, increasing the Caltech system might just be unnecessary.
Okay. Martha,
I had a couple more questions I forgot that I wanted to ask. I'm a little concerned about the dumpster being right next to this place where the rainwater is being collected. Is there any concern about leachate from the dumpster combining with the rainwater and ending up out in the wetland? Does that get treated at all?
It gets treated you know, the same way that oils from vehicles would be captured by the catch basin. And that 4-foot sump with the hooded outlet usually is sufficient for parking lot design.
The ground under the dumpster, the pavement under the dumpster is also draining toward that same catch basin.
Yes.
Okay, and are you at all concerned about having a oil or grease separator involved in this project? Would that be a useful thing to include?
I don't think it would be necessary. Parking lots with dumpster enclosures normally do just sheet flow overland over the parking lot into catch basins. So adding an oil separator, I don't think that would be necessary.
And do you have an operation and maintenance plan for this Caltech chamber system?
We may have included one, and if not, I can absolutely provide that to the owner and have them maintain it. Usually Caltech, the manufacturer, has a operation and maintenance plan that comes with their you know, standard specifications. So that can totally be provided.
I think we'd want to have it sent to Chuck as well as to the owners.
Okay.
I'm done.
okay, last call for commission members before I ask Chuck. Okay, Chuck, you have anything?
Sure. So I do think that you should put some riprap around the discharge area of the infiltration system. And that should be pretty easy. And my other question is, if I'm assuming you're not, this is all brand new. Why aren't you delivering that clean water closer to the wetland area?
We figured to just have it right there. I mean, we can move it if you like. It would just be a, you know, added trenching and added pipe, but nothing major.
Is there any issues with water coming back into the parking lot, or is the slopes in your favor?
No, the slope's in the favor.
Okay. I think the, that was the picture that we looked at with the Japanese knotweed in it and bittersweet. So I guess I would be in favor also of vegetating that area with something, so you don't start tracking all that sediment into the next property. So
Okay.
that's all I have. You answered my other question about the deep sump. So that's all I have.
Okay, now it's time for general public. If you have a comment, can you please approach the podium?
Tony, the
Yeah, hold on, Brian. I've got
Sorry,
my hand up.
I couldn't see your hand up. Apologize.
No problem. I just wanted to say, I wouldn't want to put the infiltration area too close to the wetland. I think you're going to want to have a little bit of distance to let the organics, once they get into the ground, attenuate a little bit and let the bugs eat it up before the clean water gets into the wetland. It's going to be mostly clean. It's, we're talking what, 80% removal. There'll still be a little bit there. We want to make sure we have enough distance for the microbes in the groundwater and the ground system to finish cleaning it.
Okay, I know the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook, they do have a criteria for, it's like a vegetated surface when you have 45, I believe it's 45 feet of length of vegetated surface of stormwater sheet flowing that length, it accounts for a TSS removal. I can't remember off the top of my head the TSS removal, but when you are at that 50-foot mark of sheet flowing over vegetated surface, it does have a TSS removal associated to it. And we did not take that into account here, but it is a good point that you mentioned, keeping that distance from the wetland. So, I mean, I think we're right around that. We're very close to 50 feet where the overflow orifice is located right now to the approximate wetland boundary. So, so by the time it does reach the wetlands, it should have a little bit more than 80% TSS removal based on that 50-foot sheet flow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, general public, if you have a comment, can you please come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record?
My name is Bill Stanchel, the owner of 335 Main Street.
Excuse me, can you spell your last name for
I'm
us?
sorry, Stanchel, like substantial without the sub, Stantial.
Thank you.
And maybe for the engineer, you can help me. Just a question I have, because we own the bordering property, the commercial property. And we went through some water issues ourselves 25 years ago. And you'll see in some old records here that we had a swale built because of water. You have 3 catch basins. So I think my question would be, not quite understanding, is this going to add to our water where we're susceptible in our back corner of our building? If you want to put up the map, I can show you what I'm talking about. The map showing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ouch.
This map right here.
Yeah, exactly. So what I
Okay.
can show you is our property
You're right here.
here. This is our building here, 335 Main. This is our parking lot. So you were showing the chain link fence, and that's ours on this side. When we had issues years ago with conservation, is we had to put a swale back in here. And we do have 3 catch basins. Thankfully, it's all worked out, but as you mentioned, we worry about heavy rain. And if this catch basin goes in, will that affect ours? I think that's my question. I don't know if it's.
So Giovanni, can you tell what area he was talking about? And it's kind of off camera.
Absolutely. I think you're talking about your parking area right here.
That's correct. In
Yeah,
the back corner there, yes, that's where we
Okay.
have water issues, yes.
yeah. So by installing the stormwater system, the Caltech system, it's going to improve the site with stormwater runoff 100%. I mean, and immensely. And And that's because we're not adding impervious area. If we were adding impervious area, you know, it would be more concerning and more of a question, but because the impervious area currently, what it is today and what it will be, it's the same, but now the only difference is that we're adding an underground Caltech system. We've now captured stormwater runoff that was previously just sheet flowing to the wetlands, overland. It's now being captured and, you know, getting put back into the ground by infiltration. And there's going to be a decrease in sheet flow and rainwater that would be directed elsewhere from the property. So it's going to improve the site and the surrounding area immensely.
Thank you. That's what I didn't understand. So
Thank you.
it doesn't make it worse. I'm happy.
Does anybody else have any questions on this project? Okay. So this is an RDA.
One more comment, before you vote.
Oh, you do,
Yeah.
okay.
Gio. I was just wondering if the engineering department has reviewed this plan.
I did talk to Ryan and he hasn't made any formal comments, but we had a conversation on the phone. He did mention something that he seemed okay with it, but he hasn't given a memorandum at all. I can request one and I can have him formally provide a you know, satisfactory review.
So I would say you absolutely need to have that in writing before proceeding.
Absolutely.
Is Ryan's around, right? Just, he's not,
We'll be back next week.
okay.
Do
So-
we have to have that before we can vote?
You just make it a contingency that they have to have engineering's approval prior to the start of work,
Written approval,
and I have to get a copy of that.
right, okay,
So that's a condition for this.
right. So Giovanni, did you hear all that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Ryan is out till next week sometime, so you probably want to have it waiting for him in his inbox, but
Okay.
okay, we need to have that.
800 other emails.
Yeah, I'm sure. So given that, we can vote on this and have that as a condition along with any other conditions we want to attach. Having said that, can I have a motion on this?
And after we make the motion, we can list our conditions? Okay, I would move that we issue a negative determination of applicability for 323 Main Street.
This is Tony, a second.
Okay, now you would list your conditions.
Okay. So one of my conditions would be to put in ground cover and native shrubs, native ground cover and native shrubs in the landscaped area that is in our jurisdiction, which is the 100-foot setback line.
Okay.
I also would like to see bittersweet removal and replacement plantings in that area, which is in that sort of triangle corner of the property where they're going to be doing the work. So doing some planting after you've done the construction to try to keep the bittersweet from reclaiming the area.
What kind of plantings are you thinking?
Ground cover and shrubs.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So do you think that needs a planting plan or is that overkill? Do you want to know the names of the shrubs and how many?
I would say they could turn that into Chuck.
Okay. All right,
And then I want to see the litter and the pallets removed from behind the fencing. Those are the three that mattered to me.
then we have what we just talked about, which is written approval from engineering. And a copy of that needs to go to Chuck as well.
And the riprap around the orifice.
Yeah,
So we're up to 5. I think I took Walter's thunder on that one. Okay.
Does anybody have any other conditions that we've missed?
Ryan, we said we would ask for an operations and maintenance plan
That's
You are
right.
correct, sir.
and to add riprap at the outflow.
Yeah, we got that. That's
Okay.
good. So that's 6.
And 7. Reset the erosion control at the start of this phase 2 of the project.
Hmm.
Right, so to the planned place. Okay. So we've moved for negative determination. We have some conditions. Can we now vote on it?
Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Jacques Delicker in favor.
Rick Toffenbach in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor. 6-0 by roll call vote. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next one is 555 West Street. I know we have some people here who are dying to make a presentation. Please introduce yourself for the 2 people in the,
Hi, good evening. My name is Maureen Harold from Norris Environmental Services. Here with me tonight are the Patels as well.
We're gonna have this on the screen if you want. Awesome. If you want to do both,
Yeah. If you don't mind.
I don't mind.
I have colored plans for the permission, for the commission, if you'd like to see them, and they're large rather than small.
I have one.
Yeah.
Did you read the blurb yet?
They're the same plans that were submitted as part of the package. Yeah. Sure. Okay. So we filed a notice of intent with the commission to raise a portion of the existing single-family dwelling, deck, patio, stairs, walkway, retaining wall, remove a shed and gravel play area to construct an addition, deck, stairs, farmer's porch, patio, pervious walkway, repave the driveway, rooftop and driveway, infiltration, trim trees, cut one dying tree, plantings, associated grading and utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone and 200-foot river. So the plan that I have in front of me right now is the existing conditions plan. This dwelling was built in 1953. We have several resource areas on or near the property. We have a perennial stream, the Aberjohn River. The mean annual high water is flagged in the field and it's shown on this plan as a light colored green line. We have an associated bordering vegetated wetland as well. That is shown on the plan as flags, wetland line 1 through wetland line 8. And this is the darker green line. We flip this over. We have the existing shed. We have an existing porch type area behind the dwelling, an existing deck, an existing patio, walkway and driveway. Flip this over. So knocking everything over. Okay. So what we'd like to do is take off the rear structure of that's on the existing house, construct a new addition with the basement, as well as a deck that wraps around. Replace the patio, so the patios within the existing layout of replace the patio in kind or within the existing footprint. We'd like to replace the walkway as well because that's in poor condition. We're proposing to repave the driveway because there's a low spot right in front of the garage. So if we can repave the driveway and pitch it, that would substantially improve the existing conditions of the site. We are proposing an infiltration trench, which will improve the driveway conditions. We are proposing rooftop infiltration for the addition itself at the rear of the property. This lot is completely within the inner riparian zone. So we are proposing to improve the riverfront area by providing the plantings that are shown on the plan. The 35-foot no structure, if you follow my pen, a portion of the house is within a 35-foot no structure. Again, the dwelling was constructed in 1953, predates the Wetland Protection Act and all of the local bylaws and regulations. So we did try and make an effort, knowing that we are within the buffer zone. We obviously need a waiver from 35-foot. We are within the inner riparian zone to essentially improve the existing conditions. So we are proposing the plantings. There is one tree that we would like to cut down, and there's some trees on the property that we would like to trim. My clients had reached out to Northeast Tree Service,
Yeah.
Northeast Tree, just to provide the commission some documentation of the existing trees. Pictures are provided in the notice of intent report. Pine Brook Consulting had flagged the BBW as well as the mean annual high water. I went out, I reviewed the flagging, I agree with the flagging. They provided a report as well, that's within the notice of intent. Tonight, I basically wanted to come in front of the commission and introduce the project. I know we have a number of resource areas. I know we're proposing work within the 35-foot. I know the commission may want to do a site visit and take a tour and just see the site for themselves. So at that, I'll conclude my presentation and open it up to the commission with any questions.
So what we're gonna have to do is to do that site visit that you talked about.
Okay,
So I think we should first schedule that.
okay,
Maybe there could be some preliminary questions if the commissioners have any. If not, we should do the site visit and then have the full discussion. So having said that, people could bring up their calendars. What works for a site visit? Now, typically, we do site visits on the Monday of the week before
Okay.
meeting. Our next meeting is the 24th. So if we follow
28th of August.
28th, which is like 4 + 4. So that would be the 26th. Does that work for you folks?
so I'm on vacation. That doesn't work for me. Would it be possible to do it this coming Monday?
I'm not available this Monday.
Or maybe another
That's to
day
do it Without me.
next week?
So commissioners, if you could chime in on days you can't make it. My assumption is this would be in the morning. That's when we do it typically, so folks can then go to work. So 9 o'clock someday.
We'll make it work.
What day are you thinking for next week?
I can shuffle my schedule, so I'm more than happy to accommodate the commission on the day and time.
And when are you around next week?
I am here tomorrow.
Fair enough. Okay.
So you guys should really plan not to try to work it around me because, until by the time
Right.
I'm available, you're on vacation. So, I'll have to come and see it on my own.
So I'll
afterwards.
propose Wednesday, the 21st at 9. Is there anybody who can't make that?
Well, Walter has his hand up. Let's see what he has to say.
Walter?
I'm totally unavailable next week. 19th through 23rd.
Just cancel vacation.
It wasn't
Uh,
vacation.
Okay, never mind. That's unfortunate.
So, well, maybe if the rest of you meet with Maureen,
Yeah,
then
we can do
you
a
could
follow-up.
meet with me and Walter after Maureen's on
Sure.
vacation, so we
Okay.
can get,
so this would be
Fill
a,
it in.
this would be a two site visit. So the 21st at 9 for as many as can make it as possible. And then, Walter, are you gone just for the week? Are you out just for the week?
I'm here, I'm just booked.
And that's what I meant, so unavailable for that week, so.
I'm back to, we're back to the, I'm
Okay,
good for the, I'm good for the 26th, of course. But
Okay.
that's not good.
so we'll do 9 o'clock, Monday, the 26th, and Maureen, unfortunately, you won't be there, but you will have been there this
Mhm.
upcoming Wednesday.
Okay.
That works?
Yes, thank you.
Wait, so Brian, we have two visits scheduled, one next Wednesday and then the following Monday?
Correct.
only for those who can't make it on Wednesday.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll be
you'll-
there Wednesday.
Okay,
So Tony will be there Wednesday.
Okay.
Craig, are you available?
I'm gonna make myself available, yep.
And Sherrod? Okay. So,
so you'll be there on the Wednesday,
so you've got four.
The 21st.
and that'll be.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether we could do the afternoon of the 26th. Walter, are you available in the afternoon on the 26th?
No,
No.
I'm not.
All right. I'll get there at 9
Okay.
AM then.
So it's 9 on the 26th.
Okay.
Having said that, do any commission members have any preliminary questions? Or do you want to just wait for the site visit, which I would recommend? Oh, Chuck,
Yeah, I have a question. I have a request, that you, and I know that we've talked this afternoon. So if you could pass in between the two meetings, the information that DEP asked for,
Yes.
so that's all right. Like,
So DEP provided comments. I have to follow up with those, obviously, but I can do that. That's fine.
Great.
Thanks.
okay. Having said that, I assume you guys are okay with the continuance?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted to say, Brian, that I wanted to thank Maureen for her project description and for explaining each of the provisions that apply and how the project would or would not meet them. It makes it a lot easier to set the stage and understand what's going on and to prepare for the site visit. So thank you for continuing to do that.
You're welcome.
And Tony, I again apologize for not seeing your raised hand. I'm gonna blame Chuck somehow.
Are the 2 times okay with the homeowners?
Do you guys plan on being there?
That's fine, absolutely.
Okay, you don't have to be, but if you're obviously more than welcome. Okay, so then can I have a motion to continue this to the 28th?
I move to continue the hearing on 555 West Street to August 28th.
Second? Anyone?
I, Chirag Stalicker, second.
Okay, can we vote?
Mr. Talbot's in favor?
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Chirag Stalicker in favor.
Rick Talfamo in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bow in favor. Okay.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that leads us to 1312 Main Street. Is there anybody
Yeah.
online or anything?
Bill Nolan is here, and I think the applicants are here, and maybe he had to switch phones,
You can read.
use the raise hand function if someone else is here for this project. There he is. Jonathan, are you here?
He was gonna try to make it in person.
Yeah, I think he had something also to do tonight, so maybe, I did see him zooming in, but we're good. Before we get started, are you going to share the screen and show us the information, or do you want me to?
Actually, if you could, that would be great.
Okay,
And I think just the site plan would probably be fine.
just I was gonna say we'll go ahead and start off, but if you want me to.
Sure.
So Bill, just give your name and for the record, name and address for the record and.
Sure.
And
My
it's
name
that-
is Bill, sorry.
Go ahead.
My name is Bill Nolan from Savoy Nolan Architects. The office is at 130 Liberty Street in Danvers, Mass. And I'm here representing Jonathan Taubman for a project at 1312 Main Street. He's opening a school for guitar in what used to be a veterinarian clinic building. And the project started out as an interior only renovation, except for two things. Except for one thing, we intended to replace an existing handicap ramp that was both dilapidated and it didn't meet the handicap regulations. So our intent was to tear that down and rebuild it in place. And then what was uncovered during the demolition, interior demolition, we received the building permit to do the work in the interior. And while we were doing the work on the interior, we uncovered that the reason why the handicap ramp was illegal is because at some point they enclosed the landing portion of the ramp, and they didn't enclose it in a good way. And once it was uncovered, we couldn't leave it like that. So we ended up having to put in some sonotube piers to support the foundation on what is the front vestibule to the building. Once we called for a framing inspection, the building department was made aware that we were putting in a foundation and then notified the Conservation Commission, and that's the reason why we're before you tonight. So it's kind of a retroactive request for an RDA. So the two things that are in question are, you can see on the site plan there's a gray rectangle on the front of the building that is an existing enclosed vestibule that was found to be inadequate. The foundation was found to be inadequate, so we are now replacing and putting an adequate foundation underneath it, which consists of 3 12-inch sonotubes. It will remain roofed over, and that hasn't changed. So we haven't changed the impervious surface to the site at all. And then the only other thing that we're doing is replacing the existing wood handicap ramp and replacing it with a new concrete ramp that will be to code. It will be slightly longer than the existing wood ramp, but it is over an existing concrete walkway, so the impervious surface really doesn't change. So you'll have to forgive me too. I'm an architect, not a wetland scientist, so I'm approaching it from the architectural aspect. But that, in short, is the project and why we're before you. Thankfully, Mr. Tyrone helped us out and gave us some information that was previously submitted for this property, done by Jack Sullivan a few years back. So we were able to use the wetlands that were flagged. And forgive me, I don't remember the exact year, but I know it was somewhat recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, the flags were there, and you can see, where we're at in terms of the no build and no disturbed and buffer zone. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Okay, so before we get into the questions, we did a site visit on Monday. Walter, do you want to run us through your observations?
Bill, this presentation is a little unusual compared to our normal one, so bear with me.
Sure.
Because it looks like we're showing 2 properties to evaluate. Because on the plot plan, you have the 1320, the new building as well for the vet. And I guess there's a property line somewhere, or is it one big property?
No, the parking lot is shared, so we tried to include that so you could get the sense on what was, you know, what's out there. I believe it's two properties, so there's 1312. Then there's a 25-foot wide easement in between the other property, and the other property is 1320. But they share a driveway and they share a parking lot.
They both owned by the same organization or same people?
I believe they are. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that though.
Yeah, because this gets confusing because, you know, we also had the requirements from the previous project as well. So bear with me at least.
Sure.
To start with the situation, we were there this past Monday and we noticed on the south side of property, especially, there was trash and grass clippings in the zone that we want to be protecting. There was bittersweet invasives growing on the side on both the southwest and west side. There was remaining erosion sock on the southwest side. There were orange bands on some of the trees. Were they to be cut down? Is that the reason why they're identified with orange bands?
Not to my knowledge. So my client doesn't own the property, he's renting the building. We have no intentions of doing any tree removal or really anything to do with the site again, other than the ramp. Everything else is interior to the building.
There's also there was trash of old 4x4s on the southwest corner, old concrete pillars as well. Then on the west side, the 25-foot line has wood chips inside the 25-foot line, which we should have proper plantings for. And then finally, my concern as a former client there, anything to do with doctors or medicine or veterinarians, I was wondering if there was any medical waste been tested for in the soils around there.
We did not test any soils for medical waste. I can't speak to, you know, what was there prior to us taking over the building. When we got the building, it was empty, and the veterinarian clinic had moved to the 1320 location. So they just moved across the parking lot.
But I think we have a few conditions here.
Well,
Getting rid of the.
That's premature. We're not ready for anything like that yet.
I'm sorry, I used the C word. There's concerns that I have about the bittersweet erosion sock. There was also a pipe extending out of the building. I was wondering if that was a sump pump because it drains into the wetlands.
Yeah, I saw that too. It appears to be a sump pump.
Okay, we should address that too then. Anyway, those were my observations. Bill?
Okay.
Anything you want to add?
I was gonna ask about that pipe.
Okay.
Those were, I guess, the building is already inside the 35-foot no structure zone. So the new part you're building, is that encroaching any further on the 35-foot? Or is it the same place that it was?
Same exact place that it was. We're not extending the footprint at all. It was fully enclosed. The only thing is it wasn't built properly when it was done. We're trying to make it, we put an adequate foundation underneath it. That's really all we did.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
That's all my questions.
Thank
I
you.
have one further question. So there's a dumpster in the back parking lot where you're putting things you tear out of the building.
Yep.
Is there anything that you're throwing in that dumpster that we should be particularly aware of?
It's just typical demolition work. It's just, wall board, scrap 2x4s and plywood. So no, the answer is no.
Okay, so to follow up on some of Walter's points, the 2x4s and everything you're talking about are outside the building in the back left corner as you face it. There's a pile of, I think, the 4x4, sorry, what did I say? 2x4. Yeah, I was cutting that short. So the boards that would need to be cleaned up. There's also these concrete footings, they looked like, with a square opening in the middle, which looked like they were footings for the 4x4s. Don't know that, they looked like them. There
Yeah.
were probably 10 or more of those between that corner and a few further down along the back of the building that should be picked up as well.
Sure.
So Walter mentioned the yard waste out in the woods and what have you. Just to make that clear, we would want to have that cleaned up along with some of the trash out there. The trash wasn't the worst we've seen, but as long as you're getting the yard waste, you might as well get the debris while you're at it. Is there any way you could determine if that pipe is in fact a sump pump? Because that was our assumption as well, but I'd rather not assume, I'd rather know.
Yes, I can find that out for you. And, can we assume that it's a sump pump and put your conditions to that if it's anything in it, if it's anything that isn't, I don't know what else it could be. So I'm assuming.
So yes, we can assume that, we can add it as a condition that you would let Chuck know what it is. And if it's in fact not a sump pump, then we'd have to address that topic. But our
Sure.
guess was that's what it was as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other,
Tony.
Tony?
Not your fault this time, Chuck, is it? You saw me. I have a question. Typically in order to get approval from a conservation commission, you need the authorization of the property owner to do the work. I'm assuming you have that and could provide a letter or some type of confirmation that that the property owner is in fact aware of this work and authorizing it.
Yes.
Okay. And in your application, you mentioned 3 high bush blueberry bushes to be planted for mitigation plantings. What exactly needs to be mitigated?
I think that was a suggestion from the town to help move things along. So and we recommended high bush blueberry because I know it's a native plant, but I believe the note says or to the Conservation Commission's discretion. So we're just looking to we're doing work in the area, and we're trying to soften the blow.
Okay, so it's really just an improvement of the habitat, because mitigation under the regs is a little bit of a loaded word that implies certain conditions.
Mhm.
But it doesn't sound like that's the case because you're not expanding the footprint. You're basically replacing everything in kind. This is just a way to improve the buffer zone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that correct, Chuck?
I saw it as mitigation because they are creating a permanent structure, more permanent than the open slotted deck that was there. That was, had some age to it. So this is more of a spot of land that will never be, I guess, restored. So when we saw this little alcove, I suggested doing some plantings in that area. And it doesn't show on the plan, but there's like a row of shrubs, and then all of a sudden it's like moss that dips down towards the wetland edge. I thought that would be a good area to restore or to at least do some native planting in.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Why we see it on the plan.
Anything else, Tony?
No, that's it for me.
Okay. Are there any other commissioners who have questions, comments? Chuck, do you have questions or comments?
Only to say that I thought Walter's list, although this is a rental property, I thought it was appropriate to have that list as conditions because renting it off of property owner, and the property is what the issue is, and they have a dumpster there, so it makes it almost, you know, pretty easy to deal with all these issues, so.
Okay. So having said that, are there any comments from the general public? No. Okay, so this is an RDA. So what we would do is first make a motion for the determination and then apply conditions. Having said that, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for negative determination for 1312 Main Street.
Second?
I, Chirag Stalicker, second that.
Who? Walter, want to start us off?
But you just said the conditions come now.
Yeah, but that's what he means. He wants you to give the list of conditions that you had
Okay,
before.
sorry, since I was number one in line to vote. Trash removal on south side. Grass clippings. Get rid of the erosion sock on the southwest side. Have some kind of riprap or something to slow down the drainage from the sump pump. Remove the 4x4s on the southwest side, plus the concrete foundation holders. We didn't discuss this further, but on the west side, the wood chips within the 25-foot line should be removed and have appropriate plantings.
So before we move on, let's talk about what appropriate plantings are. I mean, I was thinking ground cover. I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
I agree ground cover would be appropriate there.
Okay,
Walter, do you think ground cover is what we're looking for?
I believe so, because I think aesthetically it would work.
And there are already some shrubs. There's just gaps between the shrubs.
so if I can clarify one more thing. So the wood chips we're talking about are outside the concrete bounds that mark the wetland buffer.
They're within the wetlands buffer, yes.
Right, so they're too close to the wetlands, too far from the building. Those are the ones we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, back to you, Walter.
Then the last thing, I don't know how to do this, but it bothered me to see those orange ropes or orange bands around those trees. Have those bands removed and just ensure the trees stay.
Yeah,
Are they on the property?
yeah, I'm assuming they're left over from the last project. Maybe there was marking the do not cut ones. They look fairly old. So it's probably,
On that property line.
If you
They were there
scroll
then.
up,
yeah, there's a retention pond.
yeah,
Whatever it
they're
is to-
just to the side of the, yeah, right about there.
Yeah,
Okay,
in that area.
make sure, because there's another project in back.
Okay, yeah, and the big healthy trees, I'm sure we're just marking them as do not make a mistake and take them.
Can I ask a question about the silt sock?
Sure.
Should we leave that until our project's over and then remove it, or do you want it removed immediately? Shouldn't it stay up until we're done with our work?
I don't think you're doing anything where that protection, where that erosion was left is going to matter. That looks like it was left over from the previous project.
Yeah, I agree.
It's way off to the left, it's beyond the parking lot, there's a curb there. There's a cut in the curb, but that goes into a little retention area. I don't think that matters. Martha, you?
Yeah, I agree. They're only working in front of the building, and
Right.
this is behind the rear parking lot. So it's not having any effect at this point.
So you can pull it at your convenience.
Okay. Fair enough.
Do we need any erosion control in front where they're doing the building? Is that in the plan at all?
It doesn't show any erosion control.
The only constraint might be building materials being in the way or what have you.
So what do you,
The storage of the building materials.
I don't know. I brought up the question because
Yeah.
we usually see erosion control for a project, but this is a small enough project, maybe it's okay. I don't know.
It's more or less a repair, right?
Mm-hmm.
replacement?
Replacement
You have
repair.
Thoughts on that, Chuck?
Well, they are doing digging for the tubes, right?
They're already in.
Oh,
Yeah.
never mind.
Already in,
Oh.
okay.
Well, I'm sure they were hand dug.
Actually, they were. That was the only way you could do it. It was underneath a building and it was kind of an emergency. We needed to do it right away. So, or the building would be compromised.
So all of this has been done and we're asking for all this after the fact?
The ramp has not been done.
The ramp has not been-
Yeah, the sonotubes have been put in again because it would have been dangerous to leave the building in its state.
The construct is all that's left.
So there really won't be any digging of dirt to put that ramp in.
There may be a little bit of leveling, but no heavy equipment. There's gonna be no equipment over there.
5 feet of stock or something like that is not gonna mess this project up. Just,
It's low impact, right?
Okay, so you think we're fine?
no, you could say it. I mean, there's a project out there, the wetlands is within the 25 feet. You feel like having erosion
Okay, so add that,
for a condition.
so we'll add that as a condition,
Yeah.
that 25 feet along that edge. I'm not particularly worried about it because it is pretty flat and very little soil dug up, but it doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to do it. Okay, are there any other conditions?
So yes to the salt sock.
Yes,
Can I grab the one from the back and put that one there?
If you-
Because it's gonna be very quick.
yeah, I don't know if it would have enough integrity for you to be able to get it over there.
You
Okay,
can try.
Yeah, you can look at it.
all right. Fair enough.
I mean, it's been there a number of years now.
Think I'm good.
And you want that around the perimeter of the ramp, correct? I'm assuming.
No, just run it from the building straight out, just so it's between the work and the wetland.
Okay. As close to the building as I can get it, though.
Well, I'm sort of picturing right along that 25-foot line.
Okay. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, you just want to make sure that they have enough room to work. It's a close area and that looks like it might be 9 feet.
Okay, so it can be within the 25-foot zone.
I think our goal is gonna be to run it right on that 25 line. I mean, give or take a foot or so. They'll have room to work around that.
And just remember, when you're done, that needs to come up.
Yep. Put that dumpster to use.
So 2 years from now, on another project, we won't be asking for it to be removed.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to make a motion now for the determination?
I just need a vote.
Yeah, I moved, we seconded, we
Fair
had conditions, now we vote.
Fair enough.
Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Xerox Delicker in favor.
Rick Talfamo in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor. 6-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Right.
you.
Okay, and that brings us to 11 Pinevale.
It's only 8:25. We're doing all right.
Don't jinx us. So is there anybody else online or anything that you want included or is?
Lorraine's here. My name is Dan Willis. I think just the two of us.
Okay, so if you could, for the record, introduce yourself and the address and.
Indeed. My name is Dan Willis. My wife and I own 11 Pinevale Avenue.
Latest and
You're gonna
greatest.
present to us, Martin.
I'll make a couple of introductory comments that Maureen may have some additional content to add.
You're my guest.
Thank you. Noticing the time, I will be brief in summarizing this project. So to begin, just want to thank the commission. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for the service that you keep the town of Reading. Appreciate it. We are here today asking for a waiver. My wife and I own 11 Pineville Avenue. On the back of that house, there is a porch. The porch does not have a proper foundation. We are looking to demolish that porch and put a 2-story addition in its place. I think it's worth noting that we are looking to stay entirely within the existing footprint of that existing porch. We recognize that this proposed structure in the existing footprint is still within the 35-foot buffer zone. We have offered to mitigate by proposing some plantings. The plantings are described in the notice of intent. As I mentioned, Maureen Harold from North Environmental Services is here as my representative as well. Either she or I am happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. Maureen, anything to add on as kind of gating comments?
The entire lot is located within the 100-foot buffer zone, just as a point of note. Oh. The entire lot is located within the 100-foot buffer zone, and obviously, in order for the project to proceed, we would need a waiver from the 35-foot. Every effort has been made to maintain the 25-foot buffer zone and not encroach. Because we are requesting a waiver, we are proposing to improve the buffer zone by incorporating native plantings around the backyard area, get rid of some of that lawn as well. Can open it up to the commission with any questions.
Okay, we did a site visit there as well. Do you want to take that?
Unless Walter wants to do it.
Tonight's my night.
Okay,
First, I'd like to say that it was a very pleasant visit because the homeowner came out and was very cordial to us and helped us and seemed like he really wanted to cooperate. So thank you. Nothing really major other than there were some invasive bittersweets on the northwest side. There's a trampoline there that's temporary. So we'd like to have that eventually removed. There was some bittersweet also on the east side bed that's there. The only question I thought that needed some kind of work was the downspouts in the back, where they drain to and how they need to be repositioned just a little bit. Otherwise, it's really in good shape. Thank you.
Walter, can you explain what you mean by reposition the downspouts by a little bit?
If memory serves me correct, one was draining on the edge of a bed. There was onto a concrete flat surface. It could be, it's either going to need to be rebuilt or just tweaked a little bit to drain into that bed would be very nice.
Okay. Martha, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, the house is sided with asbestos. And the homeowner has assured us that they're going to use professionals to remove the asbestos, but I would certainly want to make sure that it's we avoid getting it into the environment, basically. So properly removed when they're tearing down that portion of the house. I'm a little concerned about your planting plan. It includes 2 red maples, one in each back corner of the property. And the one closer to the garage looks like it's got plenty of sunlight to grow, but the other one looks like it would be underneath existing really big Norway maple that's already there. So I'm just thinking that might not be a place where a red maple would thrive because it's in the shade of all those Norway maples.
We can certainly change the species or put a shrub there in lieu of the red maple. I think whatever the desire of the commission is.
And I'm also a little curious, the garden beds that are outside that 1 foot existing masonry wall seem to be pretty neglected. And you've put your plantings in the lawn. Is there a reason not to put them in the garden bed? Where right now there seems to be a place where invasives are finding foothold.
So there are two garden beds, right? The one on next to the garage and then the one next to the neighboring property. The one next to the garage, happy to put them in there if that's more palatable for the commission. The one next to the other house, we only own a portion of that land. Portion of that land is owned by the neighbor. I spoke to her about it today. She's fully supportive of this project, but she would rather have the plantings go on this side of the wall entirely on my property, not in the bed where she owns part of that as well. So happy to do it on the garage side. I don't have the ability to do it on the other side.
Understood. Okay. And it doesn't really matter to me where you put them, but I would love to see the invasives controlled that are in that little gap on the outside of the wall. So if you want your yard to look symmetric and have the bushes inside on both sides, I'm fine with that. But it would be good to keep the bittersweet from growing up the garage wall behind your beautiful new plantings.
Absolutely. To the degree that everything is in my property, absolutely agree to do it. Obviously, I can't operate in someone else's property, but to the degree it's in my property, I'll of course manage it.
Yeah. Those were really my only comments that I took notes of.
I have one to add. We talked about picking up the pieces of the caps of the wall that have fallen over into the buffer. And there's only one top of my head, maybe another one on the left-hand side, but just to get it out of there. Okay, are there any questions besides these observations? I'm looking for a hand so I can give Tony a chance if he has it.
Can I put this on the screen, or I'm just looking at it myself?
Anything, Greg?
Has the plan been shown in a way that the general public viewing, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. It would be good for the general public watching the YouTube later to have a chance to see that and not just the poster version. So did Tony have his hand up or not?
No,
Nope.
have his hand up.
Just want to make sure I give him a chance.
Right. Did you give Chuck a chance?
Oh, yeah, making sure the questions all set. Chuck, questions, comments?
Sure, yeah, I don't see any erosion control in this, on this plan. And I was wondering if you were. So, I don't know if you were gonna add erosion control, or am I missing it, or do you think that that wall that we were just talking about is sufficient to
So
kind of?
you are missing that.
Okay, so it's on the new plan?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
on the plan that I passed out. It's a mulch stock.
It's also in the notice of intent is a 12-inch diameter mulch stock backed by silt fencing will be installed along the limit of work line to protect resources during construction. I think is that, not being an expert, is that what we're talking about?
It's labeled along the masonry wall as ECB, erosion control barrier.
Hmm.
Can you see, it's the dashed line just between the plants and.
I see the
wall,
dash line, yeah,
And it's labeled ECB.
okay,
Oh, the ECV is hiding in between the shrubs.
It's hiding, yes,
Yes,
Right.
okay.
but it is on the plan.
and the construction entrance is,
It will be
Down the
on
driveway?
The driveway.
The other side of the house is only 9.6 feet,
Mhm.
so a little bit on the tight side.
And you have a catch basin across the street. Do you think that needs to be addressed, or do you have elevation on?
I think it's, unless the commission feels differently, the majority of the work is behind the house. I'm sure you'll have a dumpster on site once he gets the approvals to tear the porch down and then to do the construction. We could certainly put a silt sack in. Problem with silt sacks is if you get heavy rain events, then it causes flooding in the roadway, so that's my only concern regarding that. But if the commission finds that that's appropriate, we can certainly do that.
If this is my discussion, I will just say you should just monitor it. We would probably put a condition to sweep the street just at the end of each day, and if it becomes a problem, silt sack.
Not a problem.
That brought up a couple of questions, if you don't mind. Where are you going to put the dumpster and where are you gonna stockpile debris or soil that you're digging up and also stockpile materials that you're gonna be building with?
On the first question, it'll be in the driveway. I think you noticed that when you were over, Ms. Moore, you saw that we have a basketball hoop at the end, so we don't actually pull the cars in all the way. So there's plenty of room there to put the dumpster. On the second question, I don't think I have an answer to that. But if we can proceed in any way that the commission is comfortable with. So if you offer some conditions on that, I'm sure that we can accommodate.
So my question in particular has to do with this licensed professional, you're going to have to do the asbestos removal. That's not going to go into the general dumpster, right? They're going to handle that, especially whisk it off site, bag it up, et cetera.
They have to enclose the whole house.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
site to see.
So none of that's going to go in the dumpster and be sitting there
Right,
for a minute even.
right.
And we are using a local certified asbestos removal company on that, so that we have, the agreement is all ready to go. If we're able to proceed with the project, we already have the licensed contractor.
Chuck, are there any special conditions that we apply when there's asbestos involved?
Yeah, I didn't have the full understanding of that. Are they removing the shingles from the entire house?
No, just from the.
Just that one back area.
That is it.
And do they have enough room to operate within the driveway or are they gonna bring in so much equipment that things are gonna be moved, like the erosion control and it's gonna be more disturbance than we think, or is it a small operation and they're going to, I don't know, take a side at a time, but encapsulate it?
So they're hard questions to answer. I'm not an expert, but what I can say is this. This will all be done as a first step. So there'll be no other construction equipment there when this is done. It'll be done just initially, right? And I brought in a number of providers to give me estimates on this. No one raised concern about not having enough space to be able to do this. So that hopefully those answers are helpful to answering your question.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a pretty small area that they're taking care of. And to be honest with you, this happens a lot in Reading. And I haven't heard any big problems come up. So I don't think it's as such a big operation as I'm thinking in my head. So it must be,
It's actually quite small.
yeah.
So I would think, not being an expert in asbestos at all, is that when they're taking it off, I would assume they would take a bit of a margin. So when they're putting the new material on, there's not interaction with where the asbestos is. You know, the same idea as when you remove skin cancer, they clear a margin, same idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it's worth asking.
I will certainly ask.
I could think of what's fresh in my head. Martha.
So back to the digging, the current porch is on sonotubes. The new addition is gonna be on a foundation. So you're gonna be digging down to put in the foundation. Will you be using the soil you have dug to refill the backfill around the foundation, or will you end up with excess soil that you have to cart away?
Yes, I got it.
So some of the soil will be reused. I do think we would have to take some soil off-site. I think we'll have extra, so that'll be taken off-site.
Okay. So I think the soil that you're stockpiling to reuse later, I'd like to see maybe covered with a tarp and erosion control around your pile of soil, so it's not washing across the backyard. And you know, it looks like your most convenient place to put it might be within the 25-foot zone, but if it could be on the driveway, that would be better in terms of erosion and cleanup. But just making sure that it's protected if there's a heavy rain before it gets backfilled in.
That's not a problem. It won't take too long for them to pour the foundation, to have the foundation set and then just backfill it. But that condition is.
And then, you know, again, you don't have a whole lot of space to work with for stockpiling your building materials. So, you know, one option is a little bit of it could go in the garage, maybe not so much, but otherwise, you know, outside the 35-foot zone would be better.
Okay, we can keep it towards the other end of the driveway as far out of that zone as we can.
Does that make sense to you guys? Chuck, you think that all makes sense?
Yeah, I do. I mean, with erosion and all that, it's just where are they stockpiling it and how you want it to be handled, because I can ask for more erosion control, but it seems like such a quick project by the time I ask for them to move it. If that pile of dirt, it would be gone anyways.
Right.
You should give a couple days for things to be moved. So,
And the good news is the lot's very flat, so in terms of erosion, I'm not too concerned because it is so flat, it's not on the side of the hill.
True, and there's a wall at the end.
Right.
Yeah,
Which
you're
is-
right.
which helps.
You're right. So, yeah, I just, you know, whatever seems to work to make sure that we don't end up with the, you know, because I'm not just concerned about the river, the intermittent brook, I'm also concerned about that whole grassy area if the soil all fills out across there. So, you know, keeping it controlled, because you've put your erosion control barrier at the base of the wall, which kind of makes that whole 25-foot zone subject to possible eroding into it. So,
That's not a problem, we can put a tarp over the stockpiles soils temporarily and.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
No problem.
are
So
you
that-
allowing them to use that area that says grass area on the screen in this, inside the 25-foot area? Or do you want a limit of work there? I mean, it is a pretty tight site.
It is a tight site, so I, you know, if they're digging a foundation hole to put that house in, where else are they gonna put the dirt other than in that grass
I
area?
agree. It's just something that we, before the certificate of compliance was given, we'd want to see that restored.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I get you.
You know, I would prefer the stockpile to be outside the 35-foot, as close to the 100-foot line as possible, but I just don't see that works on this site.
No.
I don't see any place else you could put it. You're not gonna be carrying your dirt out to the front lawn. You know, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so we probably beat that erosion question to
Yeah,
death.
okay, fine. I'm done.
Are there any other questions from any commission members? I'm looking for a hand up there. I'm not seeing any. Chuck, anything more from you?
No.
I don't suppose there's anybody in the general public out there who has their hand raised.
Yeah, so I don't know who's out there.
Don't either.
I recognize a few of these people, but yeah, it's just another project, but you could just say, hey, if anyone wants to say anything, just go to the reaction buttons and use the raise hand function and,
So what Chuck just said, if you have something you want to say.
reaction button, raise hand function.
and-
Seeing none?
Okay, then,
Oh, wait, we got one. Debbie, coming up,
Debbie, if you could, start by
mute yourself.
and introduce yourself and your address, please.
Hold on a second, let me catch up to where she's at. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, took me a minute to find you. Okay, should be able to work, the screen,
Okay, I think you just allowed me to unmute.
yep,
Yeah, we
Okay,
can-
I was trying a few times. This is Debbie Ribeiro at 15 Pineville Ave, next door to number 11. And I was going to be there in person, but I'm here on the Zoom and just wanted to say that the project has my full support, and anything I can do to help with it, I would be happy to.
all right, Debbie, thank you.
Okay,
Nice.
thanks a lot. Anybody else out there? I would think not. Having said that, this is a NOI, so first we need a motion to close.
I move to close the hearing on 11 Pinevale.
I, Chirag Staliker, second that.
Mr. Talbot's in favor?
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Chirag Talekar in favor.
Rick Mo in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Rainbow in favor. Okay, so we have closed. Now we need a motion to
Conditions.
conditions.
Trampoline is, semi,
There's no foundation under it. We talked about removing it when the kids age out.
translation on the issue, okay. Bittersweet is going to be removed within the boundaries of the yard. Downspouts are gonna be relocated and, into the garden bed. And I have invasive removal a second time, so there might have been.
Same one.
Same one. And then I had a note about, when you're digging the foundation, if you have to dewater, can you let the Conservation Commission know? And you can set that up so we're not just dewatering with sediment into, any resource areas. Okay. And then whatever the rest of them are, I didn't write down, so.
Okay, so we have the removal of the cap on the wall where it's fallen over into the wetland buffer.
Move the cement cap.
Yeah, the cap on top of the wall, in some places, at least one place, is fallen off and into the wetland buffer, so.
Sorry, already been removed.
I thought it would be, I just want to write it down.
Did we need to say anything about the asbestos? Is that all set?
No.
Okay, and we did talk about the red maple proposed for the back corner, where I was thinking that really is too shady and overhung with other trees to have another full red maple there.
So I would suggest that maybe Maureen, if you wanted to think about that and where to place it instead, and then just let Chuck know.
Okay, so maybe shift the location and then put a shrub there and,
Yeah, you basically just mitigate the fact that it's in the shade,
okay.
put it someplace where it'll grow
I don't
better.
know that there's really room for a second red maple. I'm thinking replace it with a shrub.
I'm
I
happy to do that as well.
Right.
mean,
So-
I prefer maples, but I just don't think it's,
So just, if you can address that and give the results to Chuck.
Okay.
And we'll assume that it's an approvable.
Mr. Chairman, on the plan, it does note plants that Mr. Willis has suggested, but also says that if these plants aren't available, we'll go from the native plant list from the town, if that's appropriate.
Please just be sure they're real natives and not the cultivars. Thank you.
All right, sounds like we have the list.
Now we can vote. Need a motion on a vote to issue for 11 Pineville.
I move to issue the. What are we issuing? I forget.
We move into issue the order of conditions for 11 Pineville.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I move to issue the order of conditions for 11 Pineville.
Chirag Talekar, second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Chirag Talekar in favor.
Rick Mo in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Rambo in favor.
All set, thank you.
Thank you. Thank-
If I can just say two quick things. One, I enjoyed our visit as well when it came, so thank you very much. It was a really pleasant visit. And second, my wife is here. I imagine she wants to object, so maybe if we want to give her a chance to, just a little levity for the end of the night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Sorry, my children are at home, so I needed to have it all be quiet before I could sort of slip out.
And we went so fast, you got here too late.
I know.
Okay.
Things I really appreciate,
Thank you.
I'm gonna suggest we just
Have a great night.
go right to Dave Cowell and Mr. Stellenback. Because they've been waiting, and then we can jump back to old and new business.
So who do you want to go to?
Dave Cowell and Mr. Stellenback from looks like 52 Luanis.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're gonna go a little bit out of order and we're gonna take the certificate of compliance for 52 Loannis. Can you folks hear us?
Hello. Oh,
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay? This is David Cowell with Hancock Associates. How are you?
We're fine, thank you.
Good. Hi, Chuck. Hi, members of the commission. I do have Mr. Schellenbach with me here tonight in attendance. Really, we were just here tonight to sit in on how this is progressing. Forgive me, Caitlin White, wetland scientist with Hancock Associates, has been guiding this and been in attendance. She's away on vacation this week. It sounded like there was a site walk this past Monday,
Yes.
and that the replacement of the boxwoods and the little blue stem had checked out, and that the remaining order of business is the chance location of a handful of trees to thin the restoration area, with intent to do that probably a month from now. I'd say by mid-September, September 15th, you're probably at a time that is suitable for transplantation. But with that, I'm really here to listen in to the commission members and see if we're in agreement.
Okay, you're correct. We did have a site visit. Martha, you want to walk us through it?
Yep, we found that the plants inside the fence looked healthy and the boxwoods had been replaced with the inkberry and grasses, etc. We then also just checked outside in the back where the wildflowers are thriving, and talked with the owner about how to spread those trees out into the front section. But also I prowled around and tried to find all the shrubs that were in that area, and at least one shrub had been nibbled down to just nubs. But I found a good 6 or so healthy shrubs. So I didn't have a plan with me that showed how many were supposed to be out there among the trees.
Okay.
So at least some of them are looking really good. I just don't know whether all of the shrubs that were planted have survived. At least one has not. So that's, we're making progress, and the black-eyed Susans were thriving.
Yeah. So I did want to ask about that. Again, with these plantings, we'll monitor and maintain them. It sounded like the black-eyed Susan were probably in a native seed mix that was applied. It sounds like they're flourishing, but based on the height of some of these shrubs, they might be shading them. Mr. Schellenbach mentioned that perhaps he can maybe do a little weed whacking just around the shrubs to afford them more daylight. With these perennial species, they'll come back, next season as well. But just wondering if that's was mentioned.
Yes,
as
we did have that conversation with him, and we emphasized that he could clear a little bit around it to give it some room to grow, not a big circumference by any means, just a little
a
bit.
few feet. Yeah. Just to provide some, open it to some daylight, but yeah, just a few
I feel
feet.
maybe 1 foot out from the shrub,
Okay.
a few feet out. You don't want giant circles of bare. You
Right. Just so you're not hitting the shrub with the weed whacker, but to go a circumference around it just to lighten it up.
Is that what you think, Chuck?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. And we can take a look at the state of the shrubs too. If they're what I would suggest is that if they're going to move trees a month from now, that we notify the commission just in advance of that being performed. And I'd be happy to go out there and look at the state of affairs to see if, to what degree there's been any mortality, if it's significant enough that we think he needs to buy another couple of shrubs as replacements. And just to look at the state there.
And then one last point, when Martha was prowling around, as she put it, she did find some invasives. And she took a sample off and gave it to the homeowner so he would know what he's looking for if he went in to clear it out.
Oh, great. Were they woody species, or what were you seeing, Martha?
Bittersweet. There was some
Bittersweet. Yeah.
There were some other vines also growing on some of the trees at the back. but the
Yeah.
bittersweet was the one I was concerned about. The other might be grapevines, but
I
you know.
think that's what
we're-
it said.
we're
Ovitis
worried
or, yeah.
sweet. So, you know, just, it's at the back of this lovely, healthy area, but I'd hate to see, the bittersweet thriving back there where nobody's noticing it. So that's why I did a little education there.
Great, and that's a fair request as well. Anytime with restoration conditioned in order of conditions, you know, prior to the certificate of compliance that we're working our way towards, yeah, there's maintenance and typically invasive species management. So if there is some bittersweet in there, you know, I would ask my client here tonight that he, you know, if he has contractors move the trees, that at that time they would just cut and thin the existent bittersweet that's out there. That it would just be contained for offsite disposal or incineration. I don't know that it's at the degree that you think it needs herbicidal treatments, but I think we could certainly do a good job of, yeah, just then that's a few hours of labor that I don't think is, you know, just cleaning up loose ends. I don't think it's a major task. Yeah.
Okay, so then in summary, I would say the progress looks good. The plantings inside the fence look both healthy and correct.
Yep.
We know the trees haven't been moved yet. Obviously, that's supposed to be. So we can't do anything final until the trees have been moved and had some time to show survivability.
Right, right. No, that's understood. And we didn't anticipate that it would close tonight, that we have a, I was going to say baseline, but milestone deliverable a month from now in replacement of the trees. I think that, you know, just in talking with my client, he just wanted reassurances that he has his to-do list in front of him with some transparency just in discussion tonight, such that he's positioned to request the certificate upon moving the trees and, you know, executing these to-do list tasks.
And I actually don't know if it's already a request, but I would request when you move the trees, if you'll let Chuck know, so we could check out the situation.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I mentioned that once he has a contractor lined up, that we notify you guys no less than a week in advance of having the contractor out there, just for transparency. And if you guys want to come and visit at that time to make sure we've, you know, we have a finite quantity of trees that you guys are happy with.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah. Hey, Martha.
I want to emphasize the bittersweet would be mechanical only and not chemical, because you'd need to come before the commission for a permit to do any chemical treatment because it's next to the wetland.
Absolutely. That's why I asked. Yep. So yeah, it'll be mechanical hand removal only, no use of herbicides. If there's ever commercial use of herbicides, it needs to be done by a licensed herbicide applicator. And I normally condition that a licensed herbicide app. That's why I was asking. I was hoping that you guys would be content with mechanical removal only, because it does become labor intensive and expensive once you get into herbicidal treatments. So.
Okay, so we can probably let you go then, unless there's any other points.
Just, I think Brian mentioned survivability. So the certificate of compliance wouldn't be issued as soon as you move the trees. We'd probably come back again in a year to make sure they survived. So, you know, we're making progress in the right direction, but we're not going to be signing it off in September.
All right.
It's still gonna be further out.
Okay, let me ask, I have Bob with me in attendance tonight. I don't know if he'd like to speak either. I understand that with any restoration that normally you have 1 to 2 years of monitoring to ensure survivability of species before issuance of a certificate of compliance. I don't know if, let me ask Bob here tonight if there's, because a lot of times with the certificate of compliance, I don't know if there's plans for a purchase and sale of the property or something that's tied to it that might encumber a year out, in which case there's been opportunities for me and other commissions to say, if he puts puts down some money in like a surety or a bond, that he would get the certificate of compliance, and a year later, upon inspection of the trees, that they're all surviving, that he would get his money back, or put a contingency. So, Bob, are you in attendance tonight? Do you have?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah, so, and I'm just on your behalf, just wondering about a 1-year time period. As I was just saying, it is typical of monitoring and restoration. But in this circumstance, we're trying to correct a nuance in our restoration area by thinning some of these trees.
Yeah, I have no issues. I think we can, we'll move all the plants and the
Yeah.
trees in September, and, survivability is an issue, and we'll make sure it's all set.
Okay.
Come
That's
back
fine.
in the spring
If-
or something, or
Yeah.
it should be fine.
Okay, if you have no sense of urgency, I didn't know if you had a purchase and sale agreement on the house. You guys are residing there for a while. So what you would move the trees in September, and maybe by midsummer next year, we'd go out next growing season and just make sure that they're still flourishing and look viable, that they're taking and haven't died from the stress of transplantation.
Right, that's no problem.
Oh, okay, then, all right, yep, then, sorry, I know it, sometimes I have clients that are pressed under purchase and sale. So that sounds amenable, yeah.
So Bob, then as the last word, you'll leave that extra hose out there as you can water them once you move them.
I just watered them today.
But
That's what they-
that's why we're looking at mid-September instead of August. Normally planting in the peak summer months, under the stress of being transplanted, it's usually the driest months of the year.
I think we're good.
Yeah. September will be
All right.
good.
Thank you for coming in.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time tonight. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, be well, everyone. Bye.
We're down to just us.
Okay, so we might as well go to the next COC, 18 Whittier.
There was a second site visit at 18 Whittier. I
Yeah.
think Brian and Martha went,
And Walter,
and Walter.
yeah, he's stuck.
Walter, is this your night?
I
For site-
wish.
A site visit report?
At my age, there is no nights.
Okay, so do you want to fill us in on our visit?
But yeah, actually, there wasn't all that much to be negative about, shall we say. There was a weird plastic box, which kind of looked like some kind of trap in the back. And then near the fence at the back of the property, they have wood chips and not ground cover. And I know Martha counted 9 shrubs, and there was one vine growing through one of the shrubs, which was an arrowwood. Those are the 3 notes that I have.
So with those, would you consider a certificate of compliance? What's the recommendation on this? Those need to be corrected, or is it
The previous conversation involved making some gaps in the wires that they had put behind the fence. And we didn't specify how many gaps. And so they did make a couple of gaps, like 4 places where there's a width where animals could go under, and clearly have been using that. So there is still a lot of that wire mesh, but there are places where animals are clearly going through. And that was one of the concerns that had come up. So that's been addressed. Do you think that's enough?
Well, so let's go over.
Doesn't sound like it's gonna be too permanent.
So let's go over what the other issues were. So there was an issue on replanting some of the shrubs. So
Those
that's been done.
Been
The
planted and
the
are doing
replantings are
well.
looking good, but there is that one vine going through one of the shrubs that you mentioned.
Yeah.
The downspout was an issue that has been addressed. There's now a bed of rocks where the downspout comes down, so it won't go onto the lawn for erosion. The grass that was sparse on the right-hand side of the house when you first go through the gate, that is progressing. It is filled in a fair amount. There's still more to go, but that's going in the right direction. So as far as the openings in the mesh. I'm really not sure what we expected. So there are a number of openings. Small animals could go through. They had the concern about their dog getting out. I've not seen the dog. I don't know if they think these things are big enough for critters, but not big enough for their dog. So at least to the letter of the request, they have added openings, gaps in the mesh underneath the fence.
So are they 3.5 to 4 inches high?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
And like a foot long.
Great.
So on an 8-foot panel, you might have a 1-foot gap.
No, that's fine.
That's enough. Okay.
We just noted in the certificate of compliance that they have to remain in perpetuity.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And the older grass that was tall has now been mowed, so it kind of matches the backyard,
Right.
so.
The erosion control was pulled up. It's not filled in where it was pulled up. Didn't really expect that. And the tree that was struggling in the back left of the property is still there. I don't think we required it to come down. It was more of a warning that the tree is not in good shape. You may want to do something about it, but there's still a lot of empty branches as you get towards the top of it.
So I guess the ground cover is really the issue we're still waiting for.
Yeah, I think what's it.
You know, instead of having shrubs with wood chip mulch underneath them, weren't we looking for a trees, shrubs, ground cover thing? And we've got the trees, shrubs, but not the ground cover.
Yeah,
So
on the-
I'm looking for some native herbaceous
on the
layer.
backhand right, we did see evidence of some wildflowers, wildflower seed having been thrown in. There were some plants that Walter and I saw on their original visit, but certainly it's not extensive, so I would still call it missing.
And I'm thinking not 4-foot high black-eyed Susans,
No.
but something 6 inches or a foot high for ground cover. You know, the thriving wildflowers of the previous site visit is not really what we're looking for here.
I thought they were amazing.
They were amazing, but you know, Canada Mayflowers, ferns, that kind of thing. Sure,
They'd have to be more shade appropriate than those sunflowers,
yeah,
daisies, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that's not passing. So we should move on. I get those notes.
I guess progress, but not passing. So that, I believe, is all our hearings.
Jump back up to number
Back
6.
up to old new business violation notices. Nothing new and nothing's been removed.
Okay.
Chuck, have you had time to send something to 445 Pearl Street yet?
Oh, I haven't.
That's a good point.
So,
Someone's gonna have to, I don't know why they're getting such a, yes, I'm sorry. I'm laughing because you said the same thing to me at the last meeting.
okay,
She's very consistent.
well,
Tell Brian, he just texts me all day long. Just get it on his
It was a
list.
busy day.
that is where we left it, right? It was on your plate
Yeah.
to send that letter?
I'll get that out there.
Okay, then discussion items. We covered the first two, the COCs. The next one is the conservation meeting that we had. Which one of you two fine people wants to run through how it went?
I'm gonna do it so fast, it's not even gonna matter.
Fair enough.
We had a great meeting. Seems like Mike Hannaford and Mike Kessman stuck around and we listed a bunch of stuff. We were able to get some of our concerns off the list, like the trash truck at Lob's Pound. I kept on putting ruts. So Chris Cole, he's the director of the DPW, called the company and they stopped doing that. It looks 100% better. We always go into these projects with, or these meetings with a list of things that we'd like to get done or like to talk about. And so we just address those things and they say they'll look into it or they talk about it and they tell us why they can't do it or that they'll put it on their list. So it's a pretty productive meeting. I think we talked about some erosion at lot 5. And Mike's gonna look at that and suggest maybe putting a tree down to prevent erosion. Why a tree? Why a piece of a tree? Because it looks natural and it'll decompose in that area. Other than that, I think that it was just a typical DPW meeting. So if you want to add anything that I missed.
We talked about you guys are gonna meet out at the site to talk about the stairs from the parking lot up the back hill.
Yeah, I don't think we can make that meeting. I have to make it another day. But we will meet before our next conservation meeting. I'll be able to update you. Everyone's asking about those stairs. I was at the Trails Committee, Town Forest Committee last night, and they mentioned stairs too. So, but the best way to handle that is because I worked with Jeff for 11 years. And you just tell him what you want. And he's really good at like figuring it out. I just want to go there to make sure they understand my concerns are and see if I note anything that they're not thinking about. And then I'm just gonna leave it to Jeff. That's my thought.
Sounds good.
Okay, then moving on, bills approved. Do you want to talk about Mass Audubon?
Yeah, so I just need, I want to pay that Mass Audubon ecological study that we did for Bear Meadow. The bill's in, it's $7,500. We have the draft plan. Bill Geisen Tanner said he would review the final revisions that Tony and Andrew
Walter
Driven and Walter made, and then put them in there. But so I haven't got those back yet. So, but I'd like to pay him. I mean, that was kind of the agreement we made. He didn't even, he didn't say anything about it, but he did say that he would like to get the bill. So it's $7,500, and if I could get a motion and approval from the commission.
So we need a motion to authorize Chuck to pay the bill to Mass Audubon.
Out of the ARPA funds, it's $7,500.
Out of the ARPA funds.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Okay,
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Chirag Staleker in favor.
Greg Talfamo in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay, anything you want to bring up for the
I'd
administrative?
like to ask the Conservation Commission if they have time to show up at the select board meeting in support of the Town Forest Committee. We're gonna go to the 9/10, so September 10th, select board meeting, and they're gonna talk about why they think it's appropriate to have just 3 dogs on leash at the town forest. And so,
Is that a requested appearance? Or is that why they're going to have that conversation?
no, they wanna, so they're going through the motions of getting onto town meeting. And you have to have a vote from the select board, at least post that vote. It might be a unanimous, it might be whatever, but that needs to be known. So they'll talk about it. And I don't know if the select board will vote that night, but they will at some point. And the bylaw committee also has to vote, and then it goes to town meeting. So this is just a step they have to take, but that's what I wanted to mention. If you have time, because I think there's gonna be a lot of dog walkers and other people there. And they're not trying to eliminate dogs, they're just trying to control the situation. And there's a lot of people out there. We heard a funny story at the Town Forest meeting last night where one of the Town Forest members was in there putting in signs. And him and his son, 2 dogs like running around them for a while. And they finished doing what their work was and they started walking out, and then here comes some person with several leashes around their neck. So they kind of knew there was a lot of dogs. They had two or three dogs with them. And they said, hey, are you looking for dogs? I mean, And they're like, yeah, we've lost a couple and we're trying to find them. So, yeah, so that would have made the number around 5 or 6 dogs for one person, and
But also
that's
not
one of the
under
things
voice
that can
control.
happen. So, you know, they're asking for dogs to be on leash, and I'm asking for the commission if they have time to either show up or zoom into the select board meeting and just have it there. If more than 4 show up, I'll have to post it if we're even close to that, and then just as a meeting.
So let me ask that. Do we think that we'll be able to make it, or enough people that think they can make it, that we have to worry about posting it?
I'll plan to be there.
I was right.
What day is that?
September tenth.
September 10th, it's a
10th.
Tuesday.
What time?
7 o'clock, right?
Well, anytime after 7 o'clock. I mean, they usually do public open
Okay.
forum at that
The
time.
meeting starts at 7, put that.
I will try it. Tuesdays are.
I just want to know if you have to worry about posting.
Yeah, so maybe I'll send out an email just seeing who's available for that night. And it's okay if you can't make it. I mean, I think if some people make it, that's as good. And if the chair makes it, I mean, not to take any pressure off anyone else, that's even better. Okay.
One question, I mean, maybe it's a stupid question, but isn't the town just have a leash law in general?
It's true, except
Except in the town forest?
you're allowed to be on voice control off leash.
Know
So
that.
when Brian commented that these dogs were clearly not in voice control of the owner since they couldn't find the dogs.
Hmm.
And that's another condition, is that they're under voice control.
And it was a while. It was a while. It was 15, 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah, so they were loose.
That's a new piece of information for me. Like I said, I didn't know that there was any spot that you could have unleashed. So maybe I'll bring my dog there, but she'll run away, so I won't do that, actually.
Yeah, but it's still a nicer place to bring a dog on leash. as
Yes,
well as-
agreed, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can make it, that'd be great. Chuck will send out an.
So just a note for Walter, at the next town forest meeting, I secured funding for the town new entrance to the town lot 5. And so I'm mocking up a sign, not a kiosk, because those are pretty standard, but I'm a sign for the town forest committee to vote on the language. So
So is,
I don't know how many options there are. Reading Town Forest, I mean,
so is it gonna be like the red and black motif that?
just like we're doing here, yeah,
Terrence-
like Emmett-Terra and all that. I talked to Bill and I asked him to put it on the agenda, so I'll send that to you so you're aware of it too.
So who has to prove that besides the town forest committee? Does Trails have any input on that?
It's really, it's, I mean, it's the town forest entrance. I mean, they're gonna have to say, we like the language, you know.
Okay,
As far as font goes and spacing and colors, I mean, I think that's all, we want a standard high visibility sign, just like we've been doing at
I
Matera.
want it to look like we're walking with the same
Yeah.
company.
So that's it.
Okay. Minutes for approval, there are 3 listed.
But there's 2 available to approve. Sorry, it's just the worst that.
So only 7:10 and 7:24 have been done and sent out. And I do apologize, I had made spelling errors in a couple of people's name. One is Maureen Harold. I spelled her last name wrong.
You got that to me, so.
Okay. And then there was another presenter, I got his name wrong in the first one and fixed it in the second one.
I'll look for that.
Yeah. Can't remember who he was. Something ends in ski, maybe.
Kaminsky?
Kaminsky?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh.
I spelled Kaminsky wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one for,
And just a note for the people who are possibly doing minutes in the future, we got advised by town council that there were a couple of places where we made errors in how we were running minutes. We need to make a note of which people are zooming in and put in the minutes that they are remote. At least members of the commission. I don't think I made a differentiation of remote from the presenters, whether they were remote or present. But at least I know that the commissioners who are remote, we need to say that. we need to also list the roll call vote by name, not just the vote.
Again, if you follow that format, you'll get those changes up.
From the 724. I didn't do a very good job on the 710. I hadn't been told those things yet, but the 724 is following the correct format.
I would actually say you're fired, but we can't afford that.
Do you remember if there was something else that we were told we have to change on our minutes? Oh, just detail.
We just keep working on it. Yeah, we just get, no, it was, no, she mentioned one, and she said, I noticed that the discussion was, 25 minutes long, but there was only 2 sentences. She made a comment about that. But I've always heard, even from Gene Delios, the old assistant town manager, who was, pretty good. Great assistant town manager. She said, just, put the details in. You can limit the discussion items down to just a few sentences. So maybe that's what happened there.
So the details of who voted, what the outcome was.
What
those
the
kind of-
conditions were.
Yeah, those are kind of details that matter more. I will say on that discussion, I wrote that one. I did cut it really short because it was such a long conversation, and I knew the results were going to be in the changes that went to Mass Audubon.
Okay.
All right, so any comments on either of those 2 minutes that we can approve besides what Martha already talked about?
Actually didn't get a chance to read it, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Did 4 of you at least read them?
I read them.
I read them.
Got halfway through.
Yeah, they're long.
They're long.
How about you, Walter? Did you get a chance to look at those two?
Did not, no.
I think we better wait and vote
Yeah.
next time.
Okay.
We'll have.
So bring it up at
two
next time.
more to vote on next time.
I'll try to get mine done.
If you can, we really need to try and stay caught up. I mean, when I first got on the commission, there had been a lag and some of them were fairly old. We don't want to be in that position.
And just to, I need to send it to you, Chuck, before, I don't send it out to everyone, right? I send this to you.
Yeah, it would be really great if you're sending corrections in, if there's a lot, use track changes.
Yeah, but the minutes that you're writing now.
Yeah.
You send your minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant, yes.
Is that what you meant? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, just send them out, yeah.
Send you the draft to you,
Yeah.
not to.
And then Chuck sends them out to us with the next agenda thing.
Greg, if you could practice your penmanship, maybe you can volunteer for next meeting.
Yes, I'm still learning, so I want to provide the best possible notes that I can. So I want to learn a little bit more about how you guys operate.
Fair enough, as long as you know the date is coming.
Yeah, and then what you guys just mentioned about shortening it up, that obviously that
I
helps.
also don't feel like this is typical. We've had minute secretaries before, and we just don't have one now, and I know it's in the works, so it's not a forever burden for our group.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I might need to go back to the video. I lost a few of my notes to the iPad getting too heated up.
Yeah.
I gotta go back to, thankfully we have the recording.
I mean, thanks to incredible management, it's a relatively short meeting, so.
Okay, so we're,
On that note, is there anything else before we adjourn?
I just want to let you know that at the next meeting, we will be going into executive session. Talk about 87 Walkersburg Drive. Tony, you still here? Tony,
Yep.
is there there's an option to have town council with us in executive session. I didn't think that was needed. I mean, I can see them being needed with the select board, but I didn't want to get into executive session and then someone to say, oh, we better have town council here so we could ask this question. So I'm only asking the commission, which is, do you think there's any need? And Tony, you would probably be the best to answer that question because I relied on you a little bit or a lot to help me review what came in.
So the question is whether we should invite town council?
Yes, so any legal questions that you can come up with, do you think there are any legal questions that you need based on what you know about this? It's not, I don't want to discuss the project, I'm just, that's only. Do you think there's a need for town council?
Has something transpired which is prompting this executive session, or this is just to,
It's
to
just
go
to
over the
tell everyone
project?
about it. And we can talk freely about our review of it. And then at the end of it, they'll vote in favor or, you know, whatever, against it, which is the plan that was presented, which is the plan that you saw.
Okay, so this doesn't involve any appeals?
Nope,
This doesn't, no new filings, just to go over the information that's been provided over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
and of course I have to run this past. I already asked them about assistant town manager. But Matt would probably have to know too and give his approval. It does, yeah, there's no, that's exactly what I was thinking. There wasn't too much process for a lawyer to kind of slog through.
It's all been engineering related from what I've seen.
Yeah. Okay, I think I understand. So that's all I have.
So having said that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn at 9:26.
All right, thanks.
Anybody want to second it?
I Chirag Staliker, second.
Can we vote? 9:20.
Right,
All, yeah, aye.
hi, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Bye now.
Thanks, Walter.
Bye, Walter.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye, RCTV.